Hey y'all, welcome to episode number 5 of the Coyote Trapping School podcast. This episode, we may have talked about this, should have talked about this a little bit before now, but I'm doing it now, so I hope y'all are still watching and listening, paying attention. Let's just talk for a little bit about your objectives, trapping objectives, and what your purpose is for trapping, because that's going to dictate when you want to trap and target the critters that you're targeting, right? So I guess initially, and I probably should start all my episodes with the disclaimer that each state has their own trapping regulations. So please, before you buy traps, invest the money, set traps, please make sure to check your state trapping regulations to learn about seasons, licenses, restrictions so far as trap restrictions, what you can and can't set, the different baits or lures or attractants that you may or may not be able to use. All that stuff is spelled out and it varies from state to state. So please check that to make sure that you're legal in your trapping endeavors, because I sure don't want anybody getting in trouble out there because they were wanting to trap but they went out half-cocked because they watched one of my videos. So that's not what I'm about. That's not what I want to be about. But moving on from that, so you've checked and you know all the regulations, you know what's legal and you know what's not. So why do you want to trap? And to me, there's a couple of different scenarios. Well, really two mainly. It comes down to two scenarios that would affect the timing of your trapping. So are you trapping for fur? Are you trapping as a recreational hobby just to, or I hate to say commercial, although some states, Georgia, considers it a commercial endeavor. You have to buy a commercial license. You can't just go down to Walmart or log on to the DNR website and buy a trapping license just like you buy a hunting license. You've got to go through and buy a commercial license. That is such an error, because ain't nobody in Georgia making any money trapping, not commercially, unless you're charging for trapping. And with the market the way it is right now, very many places is making money trapping unless you're trapping pretty coyotes and high mountain bobcats. But that aside, so that, if you're trapping kind of as an extension of hunting season, or because you're wanting to expand your outdoorsman skills, survival skills, that to me that's one thing, and that's basically fur trapping. So that your timing of that is going to be dictated by trapping season, by the season that's set out by your state game agencies. The other scenario is, well, I guess there's really two other scenarios, but another scenario, the other main scenario that a lot of people may be watching this is from a predation standpoint. So are you out to control predators? Are you trying to reduce the number of coyotes or egg eaters that are on your property, or the property that you're managing? So that has a totally different time frame that you would want to target those critters and target your trapping efforts. Not saying that the predator management and the fur trapping can kind of intertwine, but to get your best results, the timing of those is going to be drastically different. So, and then I guess a third objective could be just general nuisance control trapping, and that in most states I think that's going to be regulated by a separate nuisance trapping license. So unless it's your own property that you own and have the ability to trap what you want to trap, whether it be beavers backing up your pond or something like that, and so I'm going to kind of stick that out, rule that out, and we're just going to talk about the first two. So with your predator management, that could fall into the traditional fur and trapping season, a fur season of targeting critters for their, while they're prime, while the trapping seasons are in. The only issue with that, the only catch with that is that, if your trapping season, Georgia, our trapping season runs from December to February, the end of February. Well, you've got a 2 to 3 month lag period before turkeys start nesting, quail start nesting, fawns start dropping, that's very much time for other animals to be coming through and reestablishing, recolonizing. So if you catch 4 coyotes off of a block in December, it's very real possibility that there could be more coyotes there hunting in April when your baby game is fixing to be hitting the ground. So from that standpoint, if you're strictly targeting predator management and trying to give your game, your preferred game species, if you will, the best chance of survival as poults and fawns, you need to be targeting just prior to nesting and fawning season. So if you're out to control predators, you need to be targeting really March and April, and it will vary some depending on your state and when you're farther up north, the later you'd probably go. Maybe not, but anyway, you need to be targeting the time. I'd say 6 to 8 weeks before nesting season and fawning season. That way, you're clearing out the predators, and hopefully there's enough gap before the other predators realize that there's a void that needs to be filled. Because that's the fact of the matter is, with all these critters, all these fur bears, all these coyotes that we're out catching, it's only a matter of time with the populations in most areas when you take an animal out of some prime habitat, and if there's animals living there, it's a good, suitable habitat. It's only a matter of time before it's going to get filled in by other excess animals somewhere else. So targeting for predator management, targeting that time just before fawning and nesting season is your ideal window to give those preferred game animals, of deer, turkeys, quail, etc., the best chance of survival until they're old enough. And with deer, you're really talking about a week to 2 weeks. Once those fawns are about 2 weeks old, their chance of being eaten or caught by a coyote drops tremendously. So that, with turkeys and quail, I don't know that is it's quite as drastic as fawns, but that's definitely, like I said, once you knock those back, give those fawns 2 weeks, they're pretty good to go by then. Let's see, I had another train of thought that just left the station, but and another part of that predator management is that's got to be consistent, regardless of your timing. If you're trapping at any time and trying to achieve some sort of predator management, to be effective in the long term, you got to stick with it long term. If you and I'm saying this as much to landowners as anybody, and I like people to pay me to coyote trap, right? But if you want to get your money's worth, you're throwing your money away if you're hiring a trapper to come in 1 year and trap coyotes, and then you're not hiring him to come back. Because in a year, there's going to be more coyotes there. You can bank on that. It's got to be a concerted, consistent effort. So just keep that in mind. I mean, like I say, trapping 1 year and hoping that you can get 4 or 5 years of benefit out of that, it ain't happening. And y'all have probably seen it, man. I've had landowners tell me before I come in and trap 1 year, and before the next season, hey man, I need you back. They're already back out here. That's the nature of the beast. And one of the neat things about a lot of wildlife populations is they respond reproductively to pressure. So if there's ample food supply and there's ample abundance, which if you're taking animals out of a population, out of a scenario, then there's going to be more food supply, more abundance. So that's going to encourage them to have more bigger litters. So really, a lot of people probably don't like to think about it this way, but trapping is actually encouraging more coyotes on the landscape, or encouraging at least the same amount of coyotes on the landscape and predators in general on the landscape. So, like I say, just wanted to make sure that caveat is in there. If you're paying somebody's paying you, or it's just your own personal land, trapping is definitely a significant investment to get into. If you're going to make that investment, you need to be sticking with it to see any real results on the ground in terms of wildlife populations encouraged. You need to be sticking with that year in and year out consistently to get your biggest bang for your buck. All right, enough about predator management. Really, the only other option, the only other scenario is fur trapping. Trapping, recreational trapping. Maybe you're not trapping for the fur, for market it for sale, but you want some hides to tan, hang on the wall. One of the things that I really like about trapping, I deer hunted. I started out squirrel hunting. That was the first thing that I went deer hunting with my dad. But so far as me having a gun and being able to shoot something, I started out with a double barrel 20 gauge shotgun. Me and my dad walking through the woods. Me learning my woodsmanship skills and learning safe gun handling and learning about being in the woods. And so then as I graduated up to deer hunting and things like that, we had a small woodlot, my grandmother's property that I deer hunted on, and my family still does. But there was, we had set stands that we set in every year, and it was good. We always got animals, but I kind of got a lacking for, or a longing. I don't know. I wasn't out like I started out doing, like my dad when he was showing me, out trying to read sign and figure out why deer are using this area or what area I think they're using. And so I think that's really what I like about trapping, is trapping really broadens and makes you use your woodsmanship skills and develop them. You got to be able to read sign. You got to be able to identify tracks and identify scat. And you're trying to predict and trying to persuade an animal out of all the area that he could step on to step on your trap pan. It's not the easiest thing to do, especially when that animal's got a nose that can smell better than we can even imagine. All the odds are stacked against the trapper, and I think that's one thing I like about it, is the pursuit and the satisfaction. When you come around the corner and you see that coyote dancing with that trap on his foot, man, that's if you've never done it, that's a hard to beat feeling of accomplishment, knowing that you matched wits and you won that time. And there's plenty of times that you're going to lose, I can assure you. But that's a lot of fun. So that's, as just a general interest, in growing your hunting and outdoorsmanship ability or survival skills. Trapping, you're going to have to go with your in trapping season, abiding by state regulations, and so that's going to be typically in the winter months. Like I said, Georgia's is from December to February. Now, on private lands, you can trap beavers and coyotes year round, and in a lot of places, there's certain species. Coyotes and beavers tend to be the top of those species that are kind of considered a nuisance species, and so you can, especially if you can get permission or you own private land, you can trap those critters year round. The issue that I have with that, just personally, is I like being able to use the hide, use the animal. Fur market sucks right now. I just got a fur check from NAFA and got $3.25 for average for some of the coons that I sent. Man, I didn't even make it worth skinning a coon, but at least I'm using that animal. That animal's getting used for something. I'm not just shooting it and throwing it in the woods. So that's what means a lot to me from that perspective of trying to stay within trapping first season when fur is prime and when there's a use for that animal. So I guess that's really the gist of it. And even within fur season, even within your state's legal season, there will be times early and or late in the season that animals may not actually be prime. Some states' season starts before animals really get prime. Like some up north in some of the better coon places, you'll hear people talk about blue coons, and that's before the coons really prime up. And then later in the season, a lot of times you'll hear people talk about rubbed coyotes and rubbed coons to some extent too. And that's when coyotes start getting kind of a bald patch. The blue coons you can't really tell until you skin them, but with coyotes they'll get a bald patch right on the back of their shoulders, right between their shoulder blades, and those are not, that drastically impacts the value of those coyotes. So even within the parameters of fur season, doesn't necessarily mean that all your fur is going to be marketable and good quality. But that's kind of the gist of it. I feel like I rambled a little bit. I hope it's helpful and valuable. The biggest takeaway is, if you're fur trapping, you're trapping in the winter months, trapping in trapping season that your state outlines and dictates. But if you're trapping for predator management, and you need to make sure you've got all the right permits or permissions to do that, if you're trapping to manage predators only, then you need to be trapping right before nesting and fawning season. You need to be trapping late spring, early summer. And like I said, not to say that you can't have an impact trapping in the winter that bleeds over into those times. And I definitely encourage and think that is a positive, because if you could take those animals out of the system, and especially in that scenario where hopefully the trapping is either playing off of something that you're already working with, and so it's not a total sunk cost, or you're getting a little money out of the fur to kind of foot that bill, versus when you're trapping spring and summer, you're not getting any money out of anything. That can help you to be more consistent. So I think even trapping in fur season, but consistently trapping year in, year out, can have a significant impact that can be seen in game populations, versus trapping 1 year during right before fawning season and then laying off for 3 or 4 years because it costs you so much out of pocket to get that trapping done. So anyway, I think that's enough. I think I've rambled enough. Hope that was helpful, and hope y'all are enjoying the podcast. I'm enjoying it too, and hope I can continue to bring y'all value and get pumped about the season, because it's coming fast, and I'm pretty excited about it. So y'all have a good one, and we'll catch you next time. Hey, I just wanted to say thanks for watching, thanks for following, thanks for listening, ever how you're consuming this. And if you want to show some support, I appreciate your support of just watching, leaving comments, and interacting with me. If you want to show a little support and help support the podcast, the YouTube channel, and the trapping endeavors, and us bringing you the content, be sure to go to CoyoteTrappingSchool.com. We've got an online store there where we have some Coyote merchandise. So if you need a Lucky Trapping hat, we got you covered there. If you need a little more luck on the trap line, got some Coyote Trapping School hats, shirts, gloves, bags. We also carry some Minnesota trap line products, baits, lures, and urines. Top quality stuff that I use on my trap line every year, and also sell those in packages. So if you're interested in getting started and you don't really know what baits or lures to use, you can buy one of the packages that we've got, that I've got kind of pre-selected. That's a great starting point to get out there and start catching game. Also, if you're new to trapping and want to learn more about it, want a clear, concise, and central location to learn how to do it, the Coyote Trapping 101 course that I put together takes you from start to finish, from the bottom up. So far, what gear you need, how to set a trap, where to set traps, and how to set your traps, and even what to do after you catch your animal, your coyote, skin it, marketing your furs, and all that. Like I said, all that's in one central location. If you're tired of trying to piece together and part together YouTube videos and forum comments and different things, go to this one central place. Soon we'll be adding different species: raccoon, bobcat, beaver, otter, fox, to try to make that a well-rounded trapping library, not just specifically coyote trapping, but if you're interested in trapping, that's the place that you can go to and watch the videos that you need when you need them on your time, and learn specifically how to get started trapping. So be sure that's also on the website at Coyote Trapping School. Be sure to check that out, and I appreciate y'all following along. I appreciate the support, and I hope y'all are killing it on the trap line. Good luck this season.